So this is the Great Stone Tour, and this is the Great Stone. It is the largest stone in the Kotel Maravi in the Western Wall. This is the same wall that we prayed outside. The outdoor prayer area of today is here, and we are now here. Now, how could we tell Herodian stone? It has its signatures. One is the frame. Another, the raised area known as the boss. Third, the setbacks. I could put my fingers here. I could put my fingers on the next one if I could reach that high. Each stone slightly set back from the one below it on both sides, and the stone itself is at a slight 2-degree incline.
Western Wall. Western Wall tunnels. Shalom, good people. How are you? It's Veronica. Today we are going to visit the tunnels of the Western Wall. So guys, join me on this great adventure at the holy city, the journey to Jerusalem. A look into the past. A look into the past. What past? Surely temple period. The great stone.
I will bring them.
Yeah.
Go ahead, follow this gentleman. We are going to join him.
Wow. Wow.
Good morning, and it's actually 2 seconds of your afternoon. Okay. So, welcome to the Kotel Western Wall Tunnels. My name is Manny. Great to have you here. I'm originally from Queens, New York. Moved to Israel about a year and a half ago. And I enjoyed having the chance to chat with some of you before we started. So the area where we daven, where we pray, the Kotel, the Western Wall today, is only about 10% of the entire wall. The part that's lit up. The wall as a whole is 488 meters long, about 1,600 feet. It is 20 meters high, that's about 60 feet. 2/3 of it underground. It's an engineered marvel, and I don't think you came here to see an engineered marvel. If you had been here 2,000 years ago, this is what you would have seen. The Great Bridge, the Kotel Maravi, the Western Wall, and above them, the Bet HaMikdash, the temple. The sanctity of this place goes all the way back to the dawn of creation. Har Moriah, Mount Moriah, Even HaShtiyah, the foundation stone. According to our tradition, this is where the dust, for which Adam Rishon, Adam was created, was taken from. So Yaakov Avinu, our forefather Jacob, the dream of the ladder ascending to heaven and the angels going up and down. Before that, for the Aqueduct, dividing of Isaac. But Jerusalem remained a Canaanite Jebusite enclave for many years after the Israelites entered the land of Israel, until a leader came along with the vision of uniting 12 tribes into one nation. David Amalek, King David. And he needs a capital that's not associated with any one tribe, a place that will belong to all of us. So he comes into Jerusalem, he builds his capital on the southern hill, the City of David Archaeological Park of today, another great site you should be sure to visit while you're here. And he brings the Aron HaBrit, the Ark of the Covenant, make Jerusalem spiritual as well as the political center of the Jewish people. He longs to build the Bet HaMikdash, the temple. He chooses the site, he buys the land, but he will not be the one to build it. That's left for his son, Shlomo King Solomon. The first temple, Bayit Rishon, stands for 410 years. It's a place of prayer, it's a place of gathering, it's a place of bringing korbanot, animal sacrifices. 586 before the Common Era, destroyed by the Babylonians. A short time later, the Persian king Cyrus allows us to return. The second temple, Bayit Sheni, is built. Not as grand as the first, still an important gathering place for the Jewish people. Independence was won by the Hashmonaim. You may have heard of them as the Maccabees. But a short time later, 63 before the Common Era, the Romans came. And they appointed a puppet king, Herod, not a very nice man. He killed his wife, he killed several of his children, he killed his brother, he killed many of the sages. Terrible guy, but a great builder and engineer. And he had a vision of building a magnificent renovated temple with a grand plaza. But the mountain, too small to accommodate his vision. So he leveled off the mountain, he built arches and vaults, he built 4 huge retaining walls, and the western retaining wall, that is our Kotel HaMaravi, our western wall of today. So the Kotel, the western wall, is actually not a part of the Bet HaMikdash or the temple itself. It's a retaining wall of the Har HaBayit Temple Mount Plaza. He built a platform, and above it, the Bet HaMikdash, the temple. Our sages say, one who has not seen the temple of Herod has never seen a beautiful building in his life. Now, why would a terrible guy like Herod have built a temple to God? Well, for one thing, he has these restive Jewish subjects. They have a history of rebellion. He's trying to win them over. It's one way to do it, build a beautiful temple. He considers himself the greatest builder and engineer who ever lived. He wants to be remembered for that. What better way to preserve his name for posterity is the man who built the magnificent temple to God. But what probably is, above all else in his eyes, think of how we judge politicians today. What do they brag about? I built schools, I built hospitals, I built roads, I built parks, I created jobs, the economy is good, people are making a living. Well, it's by the Romans during the Great Revolt. 132 of the Common Era, the revolt of Bar Kokhba, an attempt to regain Jewish independence. Successful at first, but crushed by the Romans with great cruelty. Jews were barred from the city under pain of death. But the Roman legions who drove our ancestors out of the city could never drive the city out of our hearts. For 2,000 years, wherever Jews were in the world, we turned 3 times a day to Jerusalem in prayer, saying, "V'techazena einenu v'shuvcha l'tzion b'rachamim." Their eyes behold, we return to Zion with mercy. Over the years, a series of conquerors, some more tolerant to Jews, some less. In the 7th century, it's the Muslims, and in 691, they built the Dome of the Rock on the site of the Bet HaMikdash, on the site of the temple. In the 13th century, it's the Mamluks, Muslims who ruled Egypt at the time. And they want to build their houses with easy proximity to the plaza, where in the valley they want easy access to the mosques up here in the plaza. Now, the valley was still strewn with the wreckage. The destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, the temple, more than 1,000 years earlier. So what they do, they build arches and vaults, they build a platform, and they build their houses literally against the wall. To them, the Kotel, the Western Wall, it's nothing special. It's a wall, a perfectly good wall to use as one of the walls of their houses. So they build their houses against the wall, the arches and vaults underneath. Those are the tunnels that we visit on this tour. For years, those tunnels used, some of them as water cisterns, some of them as storage areas, many of them filled with sewage and debris. Don't worry, we cleaned out the sewage and debris. Between the houses and the tunnels, almost the entire Kotel, almost the entire Western Wall is covered. All that's visible, part of the area where we pray today. So we'll be going into tunnels, literally underneath the house and the streets, and what today is the Muslim quarter. But important to understand, those tunnels are very old. They're 800 years old. They're not half as old as the Kotel, the Western Wall, or as the street we'll walk on in the course of this tour. Where we are going today was in the open air 2,000 years ago. Use your imagination. What was it like, open air, 2,000 years ago? 1948, Israel regained independence. But the armistice line of 1949 between Israel and Jordan, like a dagger through the heart of Jerusalem. The old city, the Western Wall, the Jewish quarter, all in Jordanian hands. For 19 years, Jews were denied access, as the synagogues of the Jewish quarter were destroyed. Tombstones of the Mount of Olives used for paving the roads and building the trees, as the name of the wall itself changed to Yel Burak after Muhammad's choice. June of 1967, the soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces carried with them the hopes, the dreams, the prayers of 2,000 years. Reunite the city, transform the age-old dream of L'Shana Haba Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem, to the present-day reality. This year
In Jerusalem. Amen.
And we're determined to reveal the Kotel, the Western Wall, all its glory. The archaeologists move into the tunnels. They dig, they pick, they clean, and they unveil the wonders that we're about to see. So we are setting out on the journey. For 2,000 years, our ancestors hope, dream, and pray. And we get to make the journey. So let's go!
Yay!
It's time, it's your turn to discover the wonders of the Kotel Western Wall. אנחנו מסיימים בסוף.
que es el paseo clásico. Después vamos a tomar un taxi a la estacionamiento. O sí.
So we started here at the outdoor prayer area of today, and we are now here under an arch of the Great Bridge. Now, did any of you come here through the Jaffa Gate at the market? You walked on this bridge, 2,000-year-old bridge. Still goes today to the same place it did 2,000 years ago, the Harabaya Temple Mount Plaza. Who built this bridge and why? So we mentioned before the Hashmonaim, the Maccabees, who we know from the story of Hanukkah. And shortly after that, they expand the city to the Western Hill, where the Jewish and Armenian quarters are today. Back then known as the Ir HaElyonah, the Upper City. And they built this bridge, connected the Upper City, where many of them live, to Har HaBayit, to the Temple Mount. Now, why do they need this bridge? Think of how you got here today. Those of you who came through the market, you came down a long flight of stairs. Those of you who came through the Jewish quarter, anyone from the Jewish quarter, you came down a long flight of stairs. If you came from the Mount of Olives, down a long road. If you came by car, bus, or taxi, down a long road. No matter how you got here, you wound up in the valley. And the valley back then, much deeper than today. Now imagine you live on that steep hill, the Upper City. You need to get to Har HaBayit, to the Temple Mount. Well, what you had to do before, you climb down the hill, you come down here, make a right turn, go to the southwest corner, make a left turn, go halfway up the southern side, and climb the mountain to get to the Bet HaMikdash, the temple. That's quite a schlep, quite a trek. Imagine that you have to do that every single day. And to be sure, not a whole lot of people doing it every single day. You don't just go to the Bet HaMikdash, to the temple. You go there if you have a karban, sacrifice to bring, or on holidays. Even the Kohanim, even the priest, the vast majority of them are only working there 2 weeks a year and on holidays. They're divided into 24 shifts. You come twice a year for your 1 week shift. During the holidays, all hands on deck. They all need to be here. The rest of the year, they're out in the countryside teaching the people. But the Hashmonaim, they're the top brass. The Kohen Gadol, the high priest, other top officials. They're going there every single day. Makes their lives a whole lot easier. In just a few minutes, they can walk across this bridge from where they live to where they have to be. Now, the bridge later becomes an aqueduct. When Herod expanded the plaza, he cut off the access to Lower Aqueduct that we'll see towards the end of this tour. He needs a new way to bring water here. The top of the bridge has been destroyed, so he rebuilt the top of the bridge, and underneath the pedestrian level, an aqueduct to bring in water. This bridge would have been used by some of the Olei Regel, by some of the pilgrims for the 3 pilgrimage festivals, the Shlosh Regalim, Pesach, Passover, Shavuot, Pentecost, and Sukkot, Tabernacles. This was not the main entrance. Main entrance was on the southern wall of Davidson Archaeological Park of today. But some of them would have come on this bridge. According to the historian Josephus, there were 255,000 Paschal lambs, Karban Pesach, slaughtered each year on the Har HaBayit, the Temple Mount Plaza, and Pesach, beef and Passover. Each of those lambs would serve an extended family. We are talking about millions of people, estimated 3 million people a year, coming here for the Karban Pesach, the Passover sacrifice. Now you may ask, where do all these people stay? Well, our sages say, one of the miracles of the Bet HaMikdash of the temple, no one ever complained that they didn't have sufficient space to stay in Jerusalem. That's 2 miracles. 1, everyone had a place to stay. 2, no one complained. People would put white flags on their houses. That's a sign. Come on in, you're welcome. We've got plenty of room. Wow. They would pitch tents throughout the city. Through Sukkot, tabernacles, people slept in the Sukkot, in the tabernacles. Plenty of room for everyone. But before you could go up to the Bet HaMikdash, to the temple, there was something you had to do. You had to immerse, you had to be tovel in a mikvah, a ritual bath. We found 170 of them in this area during the archaeological excavations. There were no doubt many more than that, at least 3 times that many. So if you haven't yet done our great bridge tour, don't miss it. We go to the base of this bridge. We see several mikvahot, ritual baths. If time permits, we go inside one. We go inside a 2,000-year-old building. We see ruins of the Roman city. Part of the Kotel, the Western Wall, was covered for 1,700 years, and a model of the Beit HaMikdash, the temple itself. So if you haven't done it yet, don't miss it. We're going to be heading out on the Great Stone Tour. Now, the top of this bridge was destroyed again during the Great Revolt. The bridge is great for convenience to cross over, but in wartime, it becomes a strategic liability. If you're on one side and the enemy is on the other side, the enemy can cross right over. So the upper city held out for another month. After the Beit HaMikdash, the temple was destroyed. The defenders of the upper city burned the top of the bridge to prevent the Romans from crossing over. That helps for about a month until the Romans climb the hill, stamp out the last embers of the Great Revolt in Jerusalem. So the top of the bridge rebuilt during the Muslim era, not quite clear when, and it's had its renovations over the years, just like any bridge from much more recent time. There are many renovations over the years. So it's had its renovations, but it's still on the original base from more than 2,000 years ago. Follows the same route it did 2,000 years ago to the same destination. So let's head for the Great Stone. This is street level today. Indoor prayer today is on the other side of these doors. Once we head downstairs, we will be below street level. It is about 3 years old. It is the newest synagogue in the old city. So this is the oldest synagogue in Jerusalem. Kotel, the Western Wall, and above us, the newest synagogue in the old city, Shalei Tshuva. Now, Shalei Tshuva means the gates of repentance. It's Tshuva, a central concept in Judaism, the idea of making ourselves better people. So, what better name could there be for a synagogue, especially at this time of year, than Shalei Tshuva, the gates of repentance? Is that why it's called Shalei Tshuva? It's one of the reasons. The other reason is that the energy magnate Yitzhak Tshuva donated the money to do it. So this is the Great Stone Tour, and this is the Great Stone. It is the largest stone in the Kotel Maravi, in the Western Wall. This is the same wall that we prayed outside. The outdoor prayer area of today is here, and we are now here. Now, how can we tell Herodian stone? It has its signatures. One is the frame. Another, the raised area known as the boss. Third, the setbacks. I could put my fingers here. I could put my fingers on the next one if I could reach that high. Each stone slightly set back from the one below it on both sides, and the stone itself is at a slight 2-degree incline. It's the same theory as the pyramids. The pyramids are much steeper. It's the same idea of the gradual incline to the actual and perceived stability of the structure that it shouldn't come toppling over. There is no cement, no mortar, totally dry construction, And these stones are huge. To illustrate how big this one is, I'm going to need 2 volunteers. Who wants to help me show how big this stone is? Okay, what's your name? John. John. So John, you go this way. Okay, keep going. Okay, stop. Okay. And who's going to show us on the other end? Okay, what's your name? Julia. So Julia, you go this way. Okay, keep going. Stop. Okay, everybody come forward so you can see. And John and Julia wave to each other. So this is one stone, 13 meters, 40 feet long. Okay, everyone from the back, come so you can see. Wave to each other again. Okay, one stone, 13 meters, 40 feet long. One stone. Wow. Okay, you can come back. Let's hear it for John and Julia. 3.5 meters high, about 11 feet taller than the basket of the NBA. 4 meters wide, about 12 feet. Weighs 570 tons. Wow. More than 200 elephants. Why on earth do they need a stone so big? Well, one theory is something very heavy on the other side, and they need this as a counterweight. But what I think, along with many archaeologists, Herod out to prove himself as the greatest builder and engineer who ever lived. Putting a whole bunch of small stones here doesn't prove a thing. If he could be the guy who figured out how to lift and move this, that's impressive. He did it to show that he could. Now, on the one hand, we see the grandeur. This was all built without modern construction equipment. Modern construction equipment could not build this. The cranes of today, forget about this. Cranes of today can't lift this. So, this is a retaining wall. If the retaining wall is this spectacular, imagine how spectacular the Benjamin Joshua Temple itself is. But we also see the destruction. If you look on top, you can see that it's chipped away. When the Romans destroyed the Aqueduct, destroyed the temple, they knocked down the stones from the upper level of the Kotel, of the Western Wall. This one, too much for them. All they could do is chip away at it. Now the story goes that when Titus, the Roman general, destroyed the Aqueduct, destroyed the temple, comes here, he sees this, he calls over the commander of the unit, and he demands to know, why is this still standing? And the guy thinks quickly, and he says, I left it here for all the world to see what an incredible thing you accomplished, that you destroyed this monumental structure. Titus didn't like that answer, off with his head. Now, anyone wonder about this? Why?
Put the notes.
Okay, so now it is used to put in notes. That is true. Now the notes, people write their notes with their individual plans, and they are in here. But quite a number of times, one of my colleagues here earlier today, takes them out, and they're buried on the Mount of Olives, as if it were a Torah scroll. So those notes are considered to have sanctity. It only takes God like a second to read your notes, so as long as it was here for a second, that's good enough. Many of them are here much longer than that. So the Israeli Post Office does get letters addressed to God. Those are brought here. And we have somebody who can fax or email you notes. Or somebody whose job it is to collect the faxes and the emails and to bring them here. So is today maybe acting as God's mailbox, but why was it put here in the first place? Now remember, we said to later generations of conquerors, the hotel, the Western Wall, is nothing special. It's a wall. In this case, the Byzantines think this is a great spot for a water system. The problem is, this is limestone. If the water seeps in, you damage the structure. So what they do, they make these holes, they put in these bricks, they build another wall, plaster, we've got ourselves a water system. When the archaeologists come here in 1967, this is what they find. They chip away at this, and they find this. So before it was thought, all that's left of the kotel, the part where we pray outside, when they chip away, they reveal these stones, it shows that the kotel, the Western Wall, along its entire length, is still standing. So we're going to head as close as we can get to the Kodesh HaKodashim, the Holy of Holies.
To the Holy of the Holies.
Okay, if we can move in so we can fit everybody in, please. Can everybody hear me? The real-life Indiana Jones, British military officer, archaeologist, one of the first to dig seriously in this area, 1867, he discovers this gate. It is a gate to the Temple Mount, but it is well below the plaza level. The question is, what? Now, three theories. One is that it's an entrance for people. People would go up a ramp or a staircase to get to the plaza. Theory number two, the one I find more plausible. Service entrance for the animals, for the korbanot, for the sacrifices. We bring the animals in through here, store them here, bring them up to the plaza level as needed. Possibility number three, emergency exit for Kohanim, for the priests who became Tameh, ritually impure, while serving on Harabayit, on the Temple Mount. If they become Tameh, ritually impure, they're not allowed to remain there. They would come down discreetly and exit through here. So definitely a gate to the Temple Mount. Not quite sure what it was used for. We mentioned in the 7th century the Muslims come in. They allow Jews to return. And this becomes the largest synagogue in Jerusalem, the synagogue of the cave, the Knesset Mount. Largest synagogue here, 450 years. Destroyed by the Crusaders in 1099. So we've been praying alongside the Kotel, the Western Wall, for a very long time, not always the same spot. 450 years it was here, past 500 years or so where we are today. The reason they put the synagogue here, the reason that the Kotel, the Western Wall, is the most important. 3 other retaining walls. Why is this one the most important? Is the one closest to the Kodesh HaKodashim, the Holy of Holies. We're going to go into a larger room with better acoustics to tell you more about the Kodesh HaKodashim, the Holy of Holies. Lower your bucket and draw water. This water cistern is very old. It's 800 years old. It's not half as old as the Kotel, as the Western Wall. Stones ahead of us are not Rhodian. If you look down, you can't see Rhodian stone, and you can't see how deep it goes. And 2,000 years ago, this was in the open air, and we would have been in midair. And this is as close as we can get to the Kodesh Kodeshim, the Holy of Holies. We are here, and the Kodesh Kodeshim, the Holy of Holies, is here, the western side, the back of the building. Now, every other temple in the ancient world, entrance is open. Why are they bowing to the east? The sun. They think the sun is a god. In our temple, entrance is on the east. People bow to the west. Kodesh Kodeshim, the Holy of Holies, in the west, with our backs to the sun. The sun is not a god. The way Rabbi Yehuda explained in the Mishnah, Anu Laka, Laka Einenu. We are for God, and our eyes are towards God. Now, in the Kodesh Kodeshim, the Holy of Holies, Bayit Rishon, the first temple, the Aron HaBrit, the Ark of the Covenant, the Luchot HaBrit, the tablets of the law. Well, the first set that Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses broke when he saw the golden calf, and the second set. Those were hidden, probably by Yirmiyahu HaNavi, the prophet Jeremiah, towards the end of the Bayit Rishon, first temple era. Bayit Sheni, second temple, we don't have them. All that's there, the Even HaShtiyah, the foundation stone that we mentioned at the beginning of the tour. The Muslim Dome of the Rock with the gold dome is built on that stone. That is the rock. So the Dome of the Rock is built on the holiest place in the world for the Jewish people. Now, the Holy of Holies, only one person, the Kohen Gadol, the holiest man. He goes there on the holiest day, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. He says the holiest word, the name of God that is otherwise not pronounced. And imagine this, thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, going down on their hands, their knees, their body, their entire torso, and shouting out together, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Olam Va'ed. Blessed be the name of his glorious kingdom forever and ever. And hopefully the awe and the majesty of that moment inspires people to the process of Teshuvah, of making ourselves better people. So, everybody here okay with going through tight spaces? So we're going to go literally underneath the houses and streets of the Muslim quarter, and we're going to see very fine examples of Herodian masonry along the way. Feel free to touch it. 2 windows below us, underneath one, we can look down and see stones knocked down by the Romans. Underneath the other, we can look down and see how deep it goes.
Some people.
Here we can see stones of the Kotel, of the Western Wall, that were knocked down by the Romans.
We hit the bedrock.
Mm.
This is the stone. This is the original mountain above the house. If we got to the northern western part of the
The mountain, yeah.
Welcome to Main Street, Jerusalem, from the first century of the Common Era. These are the actual paving stones our ancestors walked on 2,000 years ago. The art ceiling above us is very old, 800 years old, not half as old as this. Where we are now is in the open air 2,000 years ago. Imagine 2,000 years ago, the open air, and our ancestors walking to the Beit HaMikdash, to the temple, on these very stones. We are literally walking in the footsteps of our ancestors. We are here. If you want to have an idea how thick these stones are, have a look at these. These are paving stones that were meant for paving the streets. This is the mountain. You can see this is bedrock. You can see how the stones are embedded in the mountain. You can see how they chisel the mountain to look like stone. Behind us would have been stores selling animals for the sacrifices, other things needed for the sacrifices. Also, other kinds of food, 4 times in the 7-year cycle. Maser Sheni, the second tithe. Bring 10% of our food to be eaten in Jerusalem, or redeem it for money and bring the money here to buy food. There would have been tables of money changers here as well. For some reason, construction on this street stops. According to the sign, it's because Herod died. I'm skeptical about that. Plenty of Herodian projects went on long after he died. Makes no sense to me that they stopped because he died. What I think is the budget ran out. There's money allocated, money runs out, Herod's successors have other priorities, this street is never finished. But the construction workers leave these paving stones here like they're coming back to work the next day because of their great wisdom and foresight. They realized that in 2,000 years, there would be somebody on this tour who's tired and needs a place to sit down, and they left it here just for you. So let's head for the quarry up the staircase on the left.
Wow. Cannot even see.
It's not the main quarry. Main quarry was where Safra Square City Hall is today. All downhill from there to get to here. But this is a great spot for a quarry right across the street from the construction site. The most commonly asked question on this tour, how did they quarry these stones? How did they lift them? How did they move them? One picture is worth 1,000 words. At the end, we're going to go some stairs to go to a water tunnel literally chiseled through the bedrock by the Kashmonaim. Watch your step as you come down this stair. Watch your heads.
Roma, may nauntog na siguro. Buti na ako, di ako matangkad.
Mga Pilipino, tama lang yan.
Aqueducts. Wow. Wow. Wow.
Imagine mo ito dati ginawa nila nila.
Show. Right, the walls are dripping water.
Watch your heads here.
Wow.
Tanda, madulas ka.
Oh, they're fish.
Is in a moat that was dug by Herod to surround the Antonia fortress. Why does he build a fortress on the northern end of the Temple Mount? He would have told you to protect the Temple Mount. But more likely, he has these restive Jewish subjects with a history of rebellion. So he builds a fortress, stations the Roman garrison there. Keep an eye on what's going on down at the Temple Mount. Watch out for those Jewish troublemakers. Arch ceiling above us, the work of the Roman Emperor Hadrian. It's 1900 years old, almost as old as the tall town of the Western Wall. At that 100-year difference is the difference that this was in the open air during the time of the Beit HaMikdash of the temple. Where does the water come from? Water that's here today, some of it is rainwater, some is sewage, some is leakage from the pipes above. Most of it is water that we poured in. We also put in the fish. They're doing quite nicely. We put in 5 about a year ago at this time, and they're now 15. But going back to ancient times, largest source of water in the city, the Gihon Spring in the city of David. One of the reasons David chose the site he did, because of the proximity to water. Hezekiah builds the tunnel that brings the water into the city. Some of you may have walked through that tunnel. We build dams. We're in the valley. During the winter, heavy rain, water comes cascading down the valley. We want to save that water. So we build dams to hold back the water and guide it to water channels that will take the water to where it is needed. People have water cisterns in their homes to collect rainwater. But by the time of Beit Sheni, the second temple, none of that is enough. According to the Roman historian Tacitus, 600,000 people in Jerusalem in the Beit Sheni second temple era. During the Aliyah Regel, the pilgrimage festivals, millions of people here. An awful lot of thirsty people. Service in Har HaBayit, the Temple Mount, is water intensive. Slaughtering all those animals for korbanot, for sacrifices, that's a bloody business. They have to flood that huge plaza to wash the floor. So there's the need to bring in water from outside the city. The Brechot Shlomo, the pools of Solomon, 15 kilometers to the south of here, fed by Ein Eitam, the big spring of Eitam, and by valleys that cascaded into it. And the Hashmonaim, the Maccabees built these two huge water supply systems, 20 to bring the water in. Most of it was above ground in its time, but where it was too much to go around the mountain, they would literally chisel their way through the bedrock, as they did here, create the water tunnel to bring the water into the city. When people went up to the Bet HaMikdash, to the temple, they brought something with them, a korban, sacrifice. And that was really important. It was even more important is what you took away. It's not something tangible. Hopefully it's a life-transforming experience. You walk away motivated, committed, inspired. This is not the Bet HaMikdash. This is not the temple. But I hope you found something on this tour that moved or inspired you, something that you'll take away. And one thing that I hope that you'll all take away is the connection of the Jewish people to the land of Israel in general, and Jerusalem in particular, goes back almost 4,000 years. We're not here because of 1948. It's not about 1967. It's not even about the Holocaust. It's about 2,000 years of history. It's not just about our past. It's about our future. We have come back to the land where we became a nation, where our kings ruled, where prophets preached, where our sages taught, where we wrote the Bible, to write the next great page of the ongoing story of the Jewish people. Those of you who want to exit to the Via Dolorosa, to the Muslim and the Christian quarters, the site's there. You'll head up this staircase here towards the exit.
Wow, thank you so much. You're so amazing.
Thank you.
So guys, thank you so much for watching the video. I appreciate you. Today I wasn't talking. Today there was a very good expert today. Yes. I'll see you again in a few days time. Wow.